Does Facebook's executive shakeup signal the end of Internet.org? Now, for those of you who don't know, Internet.org was Mark Zuckerberg's ambitious plan to service the world with free web access that obviously became stalled by a myriad of problems, and the company's latest personnel moves might be sidelining the initiative for good. Last Thursday, Facebook's CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced an executive shakeup at the company, which included a couple of major personnel moves. The most notable departure, Chris Cox, who is credited as being instrumental in the 2006 creation of the newsfeed, a public stream of posts that became one of Facebook's most significant updates and visible functions. In light of Zuckerberg's just announced pivot towards privacy-minded measures like direct and encrypted messaging, the forecast for the newsfeed feature is decidedly cloudy, and so Cox is moving on. But it's the departure of Chris Daniels, another executive, that seems to cement the utter failure of a major Facebook project. I don't know if you guys knew about this, Internet.org. It's much maligned Internet accessibility project. For those of you who don't know, Internet.org was launched in 2013 and inspired by a previous manifesto about getting the entire world online. Daniels, part of Facebook's business development team, was enlisted to lead the charge. Zuckerberg's goal was to provide internet access to everyone, whether or not they could afford to pay for it. At launch, Zuckerberg said it would take 5 to 10 years for Internet.org to cover the planet. He wanted Facebook to be that gateway to the Internet. Now, in many ways, Internet.org sounded like a nonprofit. It was intended for use in underdeveloped markets where access to the Internet was either unavailable, prohibitively expensive, or too slow to be useful. Facebook forged early partnerships early on with countries like Pakistan and Indonesia, and touted its success in helping people in previously underserved regions access online healthcare services. By many accounts, it had the markings of a charitable organization, but rather than a gateway, Internet.org started to feel a little more like a gatekeeper. For starters, it was headed by Daniels, whose job was not a part of Facebook's advocacy efforts, but rather to build the company's business and to maintain profitability. Simply put, Daniels' goal was to increase the number of Facebook users, a task Internet.org was more than happy to accomplish. In order to receive internet access, those in need were first required to download the free Basics app from Facebook. Critics complained that Internet.org worked by exploiting poor countries, and there was also the issue of censorship. Because Facebook operated as a pipeline to the internet for these users, it also became an arbiter of content in a way, and that's where you start really getting fuzzy with the line. Facebook said it chose to deny access to certain websites because of their data would overwhelm servers, so a lengthy list of internet advocates derided Facebook for restricting content. India, Facebook's most promising and public partner, backed out of the proposition entirely. Then Internet.org stopped offering its services in Myanmar, following reports of the platform's role in spreading hate speech across the country. It pulled out of other developing nations, including Anguilla and El Salvador, around the same time as well. Now, what soon became clear was that many Internet.org users were using it only to lower their internet bills, not to gain new access to the web. In short, the world saw through the Internet.org veneer and identified the surface for what it really was: a business strategy headed by a Facebook biz dev guy that gave the social network even more control over how people experience the web. Now, it might be cynical to suggest that Internet.org was intended to be a malicious bait and switch. More likely it could be cited as another example of how even appearance of ideas at the company can morph into user acquisition schemes. So now there's a whole bunch of other problems going on. But 6 years after it launched, Internet.org is seldom spoke of. Facebook hasn't issued a press release about Zuckerberg's passion project since 2015 and seemingly stopped talking about it altogether in 2016 after it failed in India over concern it violated net neutrality rules. Each year at Facebook's F8 Developer Conference, mentions of Internet.org are fewer than fewer. At next month's annual conference, it's very likely audiences will hear nothing about it at all, but you will, guys, because now you're informed. And if you weren't before, now you are. See, this is where it gets hilarious. It's like, Mark, what are you doing? You're first concerned about this, and now you're concerned about that. Well, make up your mind about what the heck you were doing. Because now he's like, well, now we need privacy and encrypted stuff, because I got chewed out by the U.S. House and Senate, and it was really uncomfortable and stuff, and they were all really dressed up nice and stuff, and I kind of just showed up like an idiot. And they grilled me about a lot of stuff and made me look like an idiot, and, you know, I sounded smart about some stuff, but I sound like an idiot about others. But I don't really know how any of this works, and I'm kind of stuck with my hand in the cookie jar, going, well, am I a utility, or am I like free internet then? It's like, well, okay, figure out what stance you're on then, Facebook. Are you an open platform for everybody, or are you a publisher mediating what type of content is spread on your platform? Careful what you wish for, and careful how you step on the toes of people, because it might just come back to bite you in the rear end. So apparently they just keep seeing through all this. The trolls have become even more trollish in their attempts to... No, I'm kidding. I'm trying to make something out of something that's not. But yeah, people saw internet.org for what it was, and if you hadn't heard about it before, well, now you have.